taswira tofauti kabisa tangu ujio wa maandamano ya mwaka 2024, maandamano ambayo yalisababisha vifo vingi zaidi ambayo yaliwahi kushuhudiwa katika historia ya Kenya, zaidi ya vifo 60. Labda Alphonse, jinsi serikali imekuwa ikikabiliana na waandamanaji ambao wanataka kuwajibisha viongozi wao, leo pia ni lengo ni tofauti, ni kuwakumbuka wale ambao walifariki na wale walofiwa kipindi hiko na pia mwaka jana. Hivi katika nafasi uliyo wewe kama mwanaharakati, unatabiri hali hii ya Wakenya wananchi kujitokeza kuandamana ili kuwajibisha viongozi na labda kutetea uongozi ambao ni bora zaidi, utakuwaje kwa miaka labda 5 itakayokuja, hata sio chini ya uongozi wa Rais William Ruto?
Mara nyingi wa Kenya wako na what we call negative mentality towards the government, na kwa hivyo unavyoangalia kwa sasa Wakenya wengi wanaonyesha kuchoka na serikali yao. Ndio maana hata ukiangalia kwa saa hii vile Gen Z walisema leo watakuwa na kumbukumbu yaliyotendeka 2024. Watu wengi sana waliamua kutulia nyumbani kwa sababu wao kwa dhana yao wanajua ya kwamba nia ya serikali kwa Wakenya ni kuangamiza na kuwaua. Hakuna yule Mkenya ambaye anafikiria serikali ina nia nzuri kwake. Hata ukitazamia ile maongeo ya Wakenya wengi, hakuna mtu anaweza ongea mambo mazuri ama anaweza takia hata serikali na hata rais mwenyewe mazuri, kwa sababu watu wengi wanaona rais, wanapoona rais wanamuona kwa picha tatu. Wanamuona kama mtu wa dhulma, mtu wa kudhulumu watu kwa kutumia nguvu zake za asasi za serikali kama vile askari za polisi. Pili, wanamuona kama yule mtu ambaye ni kwa lugha ya kimombo ni vulture, anangoja tu ukufe akukule. That is what the people see the government. And kwa yangu, kwa miaka zijazo tutafika mahali hata uchaguzi hautakuwa na maana. Watu watasema au watu wanataka rais mwenye atakuwa awe tuendelee na maisha, kwa sababu Wakenya wanapokuwa na azimio labda tungependa Kenya ikuwe nchi fulani, chukua mkondo fulani
Singapore.
Naam. Wanaona kwamba mara nyingi dereva ambaye ako ushukani anaelekeza Kenya kwenye mitaro. Hakuna yule dereva ambaye shika steering wheel ya Kenya na ikaelekeza mahali wa Kenya wanatazamia. Kwa mfano, tulipokuwa tunapata uhuru mwaka 1963, wale wa Kenya ambao walikuwa wanapigana vita kama wale wanaitwa Maumau, baada ya kupigana na kufukuza mkoloni, yule mtu ambaye alianza kuibia Wakenya shamba ni Mkenya mwenzao. Tunapokuja kwa mwaka wa 1978, wakati mwanzilishi wa taifa alipoaga dunia, yule aliyeingia alionekana kama yule ambaye angeweza sasa kutoa Wakenya kwa ile minyororo ya mzee mstaafu hayati na kuwapa maisha mazuri. Yeye alipokuwa ameanza uongozi wa kiimla na Wakenya wakajaribu mapinduzi ya 1982, yeye akageuka simba ambaye ako na makucha. Ukifanya ngwe unasikia unashikwa ama unauawa. Kwa hivyo hakuna yule rais ambaye amewahi timia malengo ya Wakenya kwa njia mwafaka. Na ndivyo basi Wakenya wengi wanapoona serikali ama rais wanamuona kwanza kama adui. Na vile vile ugao wa rasilimali za serikali haijakuwa kwa uwazi na what we call fair distribution of resources. Right now ukitembea sehemu mbalimbali kama tuseme South Rift, utapata kuna barabara. Ukienda Central kuna barabara nyingi sana. But ukienda sasa places kama Ukambani, parts of Nyanza and Kisii, roads are not very good because they were perceived as opposition areas. Why do you categorize a place?
Imani na matumaini, pale ambapo patakuwa na justice, then amani itapatikana. Amani haiwezi kuja kama justice haijafanyika. Kwa tulipata vitisho tangu juzi, hatuna amani. Polisi wanasema hawajapata notification, wanasema tusiende barabarani, na ni haki yetu ya kikatiba kwenda barabarani. Na sisi tumesema hatutaogopa, hatukubali, lazima, manake nchi ni yetu na katiba ni yetu. Kwa hivyo leo tuko tayari, tuko ngangari, tuko barabarani, familia zao pia wamekuja, wale waliathirika. Pia mimi ni mwathiriwa mmoja, maana yake mimi nilishikwa nikafungwa, nikawekwa masaa 9 msamani. Lazima niseme ukweli wa mambo. Leo ni leo, tumejitokeza, tunaanzia mapembea ya ndovu, tukija moja kwa moja. Pole pole, taratibu, tukikumbuka ndugu zetu waliotuacha. Comrade power!
Wamama, tumechoka kuzika vijana wetu. Sisi kama wamama tumechoka kuona vijana wetu wanadhulumiwa. Sisi kama wamama tumechoka kuona vijana wetu wakipigwa risasi kiholela holela. Tuko na watu ambao wanafanya udhalimu, wanafanya uhalifu, wanakiuka sheria, lakini hii ni nchi inaendelea upande wao na kuweza kuside na wao. So sisi tuko hapa kutoka barabarani kumon, kusikitika, kuomboleza kwa wale tuliowapoteza, na tunatumai ya kuwa we will not lose any more lives. Enough is enough. Down.
And Deputy Inspector General of Police Gilbert Masengeli confirmed that today's protesters had given police a notice and that it is protected in law. Speaking in Kangemi, Masengeli says the police are ready and will provide security to peaceful protesters. And we will be giving you that presser, but let's listen in to what he had to say.
Kuhakikishia kwamba tuko na usalama wa kutosha, wananchi wako salama, wanaendelea na kazi zao za kawaida kama kawaida. Jambo lingine nataka kusema ni kwamba nimeshukuru kwa sababu kila mtu ameheshimu haki za mwingine. Naona hakuna kari ya mtu inachomwa, hakuna pikipiki ya mtu inachomwa, watu wanapita wanaendelea kazi kama kawaida. Wana habari mko hapa pia mnanichukua, na nasema ni asante. Sina jambo lingine la kusema, ni kuhakikisha sisi kama polisi ni kuhakikisha usalama wa kila mmoja wetu, kwa sababu everybody has got a right, but your right does not suspend other people's rights. So I request each and everyone to remain and confine within the rule of law as per the law. Hakuna watu tunasuia, watu wanaenda, wale watu kidogo moja mbili wale watakuwa na nia mbaya ya kutaka maybe kuwakaisha nyinyi kupita kwenu, ama wengine kutoendelea na biashara zao, ndio tutasema maybe hapo sheria itampata mwenyewe. Lakini peaceful demonstration tunashukuru kwa sababu sheria inasema wewe useme unataka kudemonstrate. Unataka kudemonstrate kwa sababu hii. Na leo tumejua kwa sababu walipresent. Hatuna neno. Wapresent, waende na wana haki ya kufanya. Vile tutawalinda. Tutawaescort, hata wakitaka band ya polisi tuwape, itawasindikisha na watakaa mzuri. Nashukuru.
Well, and now we cruise over to Nairobi. This is Jogoo Road. You can see a bit of commotion here, and we're trying to get a hold of Jeff Curry to give us what's going on there. But as you can see, we would presume that's a plainclothes police officer who's accompanying the young man. The police officer seems to have a gun there. We will be giving you details on what's happening. Remember, there's the second commemoration of the June 25th, 2024 protest that has so far seen the lives of 60 people taken away. And remember, those victims, the president earlier this week had initiated the plans to reparate the victims to a tune of 2 billion shillings, a process that has already begun with the first phase. Around 430 million shillings disbursed to compensate victims. Those who lost their loved ones will be compensated about 3 million shillings by each. You can see there we have young people who've been laid down there by police officers. We're yet to establish what's going on. There are about 5 people. Visibly, you can see that's a police officer holding a pistol on his hands. We are trying to get the details of that particular event that is happening there. Still, the victims, 2 years on, they're still agitating for reforms. That's governance, improved cost of living, and most importantly, they're still seeking justice for their loved ones. Yesterday, we're able to see families and victims, and also young people just trying to commemorate this day. Some of them calling this day to be made a public holiday, and definitely.
This is meant to be a video where I walk purposefully down the street and tell you who I am and what I stand for. But can we try something else? Because I think we're all sick of business as usual from politicians. Like their empty words that they care about housing affordability, or the fairy tales about how their new gas projects will somehow slow the climate crisis. So let's get real. We can ban unlimited rent increases and build more public housing. We can regulate supermarkets to stop price gouging. We can have a world-class transport system, and we can shift away from polluting coal and gas. We know we face some big challenges, but together we have the power to make big changes.
The deputy, that is Gilbert Masengeli, giving us an update on the security situation around the country. What can you give us from Kitengela?
Well, since morning, we've been pitching tent in Kitengela. Remember that in the past occasions like this one, where commemorations or country protests, Kitengela has actually always been on the news. And remember that high volatile protests have actually been witnessed here. And so, to that effect, we've seen heavy deployment of security apparatus since morning. And so, to that effect, we've also seen a couple of minutes ago, we saw the Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, accompanied by high-ranking police officers here. One of his deputies, Gilbert Masengeli, they have actually been here. They talked to us, speaking and addressing the nation, really saying that there is actually relative calm throughout the country. But we questioned why, especially entries into Nairobi. Those are roads. That's Mombasa Road, Waiyaki Way, Langata Road, and of course Thika Road. We've seen those actually the main entrance and exit into the CBD, Nairobi CBD. And so in the since morning, we've seen the barricading by the police officers, but they are defending that, saying that they had prior intelligence that criminal elements will be transported into the CBD, and so to just ensure that they avert a possible ugly situation where criminals normally infiltrate such noble causes like a protest, which actually enshrined in the Constitution. They had to employ and institute such measures to ensure that they avert those happenings early enough. And also the question of arresting of activists. Remember that yesterday Bob Njagi, and today we've seen one of the Longton brothers being arrested here in Kitengela. Remember, those were actually arrested in 2024. They spent 32 days in police custody. They were sort of abducted or arrested, but remember that they were never arraigned, and so to that effect, they say they were abducted. So one of the Longton brothers is also now under police custody at the Kitengela police station. He was arrested while taking his car to a mechanic, and remember that his elder brother, claims that his younger brother, who has now been arrested, was not in possession of a phone, and so he says that it's possible he was being trailed by the police. And so as we speak right now, the Kitengela 3 that were arrested in 2024, 2 of them are now under police custody. And so also he talked about just ensuring that the country is still calm. But remember that the police, of course the authority and the CS Interior yesterday were saying that these particular protests were actually notified early enough. But remember that also since morning we've seen tens of youth being arrested here in Kitengela and of course other parts of the country. But if my colleague Cosmas, let me just move the other side so that I could just talk to some of the youth here. You can see behind me, the police are still keeping vigil here. Karibuni sana tuweze kuzungumza hapa. Mmekuwa mkitaka kuzungumza tangia asubuhi. Karibia tafadhali. Tangu asubuhi tumeona mkiwa mkifika hapa. Eneo la Kitengela limejulikana kwa maandamano na kumekuwa na uharibifu. Unaona biashara zimeweza kufunga, uharibifu umekuwepo katika siku za awali. Nyinyi kama wakazi wa Kitengela, tangia asubuhi tumeona kumekuwa na utulivu. Kama wakazi wa Kitengela, wito wenu kwa vijana wenzenu ni upi?
Halo.
Utasema jina alafu tutasema halo baadaye.
Kwa majina mimi naitwa Alex John. Mimi ni mkazi hapa Kitengela. Kwanza mimi hata ni kinyozi, niko na kinyozi hapa hivi. Sasa mimi kanaweza
umefungua leo?
Leo nilifungua Ngware. Sasa ilifika masaa mengi magunzi, kuna magunzi fulani. Masaa
mengi nini?
Ulisema masaa zingine. Kuna magunzi fulani walipita huko hivyo chini, wakamabezi marungu na mafimbo. Unacheki? Na pia makarao wamefanya maandamano isiku yetu, wamefanya maandamano ikuwe yao. Unaona? Sisi hata jana tulisema tutaenda huko hivyo chini huko kwa chief, twende tumwambie tunaenda huko study. Tulikuwa tuende study candle lighting, si ndio? Tulikuwa tuende candle lighting, wakaenda wakakataa. Unaona? Kwanza walitudanganya watatupea ruhusa mpaka tukapost. Asubuhi kuingia hivi Ngware tunaambiwa hatuwezi ingia, wamekataa. Kukataa wamekuja wamejaa huku kila mahali wanauzia watu tension. Mimi Kenya naweza ambia vijana wako tu sawa, shida ni makarao. Makarao ndio wanatuzia uoga. Jo hata sasa wanafaa kuwa wameenda nyumbani, watu wache tufanye biashara.
Sawa wameweza kusikia. Asante sana, tupepe mwingine, tupatie mwingine nafasi, na tukizungumza tutumie tu lugha ya kitaifa ambayo kila mtu anaweza kuelewa. Tafadhali, jina lako, mkazi wa wapi, na pengine wito wako kwa wenzako na pengine wafanye biashara hapa. Utulivu umeweza kushuhudiwa.
Na wasalimu wote, hamjambo?
Jambo.
Kwa majina ni Andrew Andy CJ, mkazi wa hapa Kitengela. Siku ya leo ilikuwa tu siku ya maandamano ya amani. Hakukuwa na furugu yoyote. Lakini sasa polisi wamefanya maandamano, inaonekana ni kama iko na vurugu na ni yao. Vijana hawakuwa na shida yoyote. Na hakuna mtu anakuwa alete shida, si ndio? Maandamano haikuwa na shida, lakini polisi wamejazwa kila mahali na wamewekea tension kila mtu. Kila sehemu kuuzia tension. Na hayo tu kwa sasa, na mbarikiwe.
Sawa. Well, just listening in, remember that they have actually been talking since morning. They say that they were peaceful. They were sure that they will be let to commemorate the second anniversary of the Gen Z protest here in Kitengela. But they claim that the heavy deployment of security apparatus here is what led to this sort of tension here, where most of the business premises have remained under lock and key, out of fear that whatever they underwent in the last spate of protests here, where their business or premises were looted, they are just to ensure that it doesn't repeat itself. And so we shall still be keeping an eye here to just bring our viewers to speed with the happenings here. But so far, so good, nothing to cause any fear or tension here in Kitengela.
Well, Alan, before I let you go, we understand that Bob Njagi was arrested yesterday and one of the Longton brothers today. Maybe have you had a chance to talk to a family member, or have you had a chance to visit the police station where they're being held?
Well, we visited the Kitengela police station, but we could not access the police station. Remember that Bob Njagi was arrested yesterday, but his whereabouts remain unknown. But one of the Longton brothers, who is actually been arrested early today, is the only one that we can authoritatively report that is being held at the Kitengela police station, but not Bob Njagi, whose whereabouts remain unknown. But remember that we are reliably informed that the Law Society of Kenya representatives will be making their way into the Kitengela police station, and we shall be talking to them to maybe just listen on their part, because of course if they are coming to defend them, if they are actually their advocates, then they are better placed to maybe to authoritatively maybe brief us as to the whereabouts of the two, the Longton brother and of course Bob Njagi, who was arrested yesterday. But remember that, as I told you earlier, that the police IG, that's Douglas Kanja, says that the arrests are actually following the intelligence reports, prior intelligence reports they received maybe yesterday or a day before. And so that's why they were arrested yesterday and today.
Well, thank you, Alan Ochanda from Kitengela. Now we cross over to Jogoo Road, earlier on, where we had seen those scenes where police officers were arresting young people. And now we are joined by our reporter, Jeff Kirwe. Good afternoon, Jeff. We've seen plainclothes police officers arresting young people, contrary to actually what is required. What can you report about that incident?
Well, a very good afternoon indeed. This is Jogoo Road. We just left at the Outer Ring Road, but there was a slight commotion a few minutes ago. It has actually lasted for more than 30 minutes. This is after a group of about 10 youth actually pedestrians along the Jogoo Road. Remember that this road, the police have barricaded, so there are no vehicles allowed to go past this place. So all the vehicles and border, they actually alight at the roadblock that has been barricaded by police. So there was a group of about 10 young people who accosted pedestrians, robbed them of their valuables. There are actually allegations that some of them actually have guns, and they ran into one of the dams around the Jogoo Road area, and they've been accosted by police officers. Plainclothes police officers follow them up all the way into the dam. They have arrested 7 of them. They say they were a group of 10, so they are still looking for 3 others who they say they are still at large. But here you can see there are still members of the public who are actually waiting for the arrest of those suspects along this route. They're saying that this has been a menace in this area. Many say that past 6 in the evening, they are accosted by a group of youth. They are robbed of their valuables. Others are stabbed. And they say they are this group, or rather the gang is a well-known group. And even the police officers actually have managed to identify some of them. They've been arrested and they're being taken to a police station. I will speak to 1 or 2 gentlemen here, maybe just to paint to us a picture about the situation here. Maybe unaweza tuambia anza kwa jina lako, and exactly we saw kuna watu walikuwa wameporwa hapa, watu wakapiga nduru. Vijana mnawajua, hali ya usalama inakuanga vipi hapa katika barabara ya Jogoo Road?
Kwa majina ni Nicodemus Francis. Chenye naweza sema hapa si pazuri sana vile, kutoka saa 12 ukiwa unatembea huwezi tembea. Wanapiga so zako vile, kuna mabuizi wao wanakutegea tu hapa. For example, huwezi kuwa na simu, wao mapanga, mabuduki. Inabidi tu naingizia mapema watu wa kwasu kaa sisi. Hatuwezi pata amani juu yao. We thank the police for the good job they have done.
Na pia labda tuambie tu jina lako, labda vijana mnawajua, mmewahi kabiliana nao, walikuwa kwenye wanapanga kuingia kwenye maandamano, ama ni vijana tu walikuwa wanajaribu kutumia maandamano ili kuanza vurugu na kuleta shida wizi huko?
Kwanza kwa majina naitwa Jami na Luanga. Mimi ni mkazi hapa Pipeline. Hapa huwezi pita asubuhi mapema ama jioni. Kila wiki huwezi kosa hapa mwili. Tunapitanga hapa kwa reli, unapata mwili imesongeshwa hapa kwa train, wanasema ati train imekanyana, kumbe ni hao vijana wanachukua wanakudunga watu visu hapa hivi. Leo tunashukuru maaskari wetu kazi ambao wamefanya. At least leo wametusaidia leo. Ni hayo tu.
Well, there you have it. That is actually the situation along Jogoo Road. This is just a group of youth who are trying to take advantage of the June 25th commemoration of the victims who lost their lives, those who were injured during the June 25th, 2024 Gen Z protest. Many of them actually are taking advantage of the situation in the country to rob innocent Kenyans who are going about their work. But remember, what we have seen today, what we've witnessed today across major roads in Kenya is a contradiction of the affirmation by the government, what actually the government promised yesterday, that many people will go about their work uninterfered. And of course, they made a commitment to Kenyans that all roads will be safe, all businesses will be open, all people who intend to go about their businesses will go about. But what we've witnessed today is that most of the roads are barricaded. For instance, here at Jogoo Road, residents of Pipeline, residents of Jogoo Road, Donholm, they cannot access the CBD. Rather, they are told to alight at the road barricade erected by police officers and block all vehicles moving from this area towards the city center. But we wait to see what exactly will transpire along this route. Remember, in the previous incidences that have been reported along this route, that is the Outer Ring Road, Kware area, Donholm area, it has been one of the hotspots in terms of the unrest witnessed during the Gen Z protest. But so far, the situation has been calm. Police officers are patrolling the area. We've seen even air surveillance, and we understand that some of the officers from the National Police Service, actually high-ranking officers, are conducting air surveillance across this route. There are a lot of plainclothes police officers to ensure the safety and, of course, block those who intend to access the central business district.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for that particular update. Is just a security breach where young people are taking advantage of whatever situation is going on to rob off Kenyans. And talking of arrest, the Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, had addressed issues on that earlier on in Kitengela. And now let's listen
in. Our country is safe and secure. From the north to south, from east to the west, our country is safe and secure. Number two, today we know this is the day that the Gen Zs wanted to do the remembrance of what happened on, in the year 2024 June. And yesterday, even our CS came out very, very clear. They said that there is no one who is prevented from, demonstrating, picketing, because it is allowed by the law. As long as we follow what is allowed by Article 7 of our Constitution. And I'm happy to report that even in Nairobi town, I have seen Kenyans laying, leaves and flowers at Parliament there, and they were escorted by police and in a peaceful way. And I'm happy. I'm happy as the Inspector General because we want a peaceful country, all of us. And security of our country is a collective responsibility for all of us. We cannot say that it's one part to ensure that we are secure. No. All of us, we must do whatever is reasonably possible to ensure that our country remains safe and secure. And that's the reason why I'm saying that right now I've been doing rounds, checking on how we are doing. And I'm happy to report that in all the areas that are affected, they are very okay. The reports that I'm getting from the commanders in the field is that everything is running okay. Yeah, we don't have any problem.
That Kitengela is a hotbed of these protests. How has the situation been since you arrived here?
No, it's, you see, we are here in Kitengela now. And you can see, everybody can be able to see that Kitengela is very quiet. The people are continuing with whatever they do, whatever they are doing, in a peaceful manner. And I want to appreciate even the people of Kitengela, because previously we have seen Kitengela being on fire. But this time around things are very, very different. And that's the reason why I'm appreciating our officers, the police officers, and the other security providers. I'm appreciating the people of these areas, in particular Kitengela, and even the rest of our country. I've seen the processions down there in Mombasa, very, very peaceful and with nothing much. So what we are really saying is that so far so good. Yeah, thank you.
Maybe IG, one last one from mine. Maybe we've seen assurances from your part, and of course the CS yesterday. But since early morning, like 4 a.m., we've seen major police barricades from, of course, on the major entrances into the CBD. Don't you think there would have been a better way to address this so that we do not, or you rather, do not inconvenience persons who are not part of the commemorations?
Now, let me say this. What we are doing is what we refer to as intelligence-led policing. So if there are indications indicating that there are those who are hell-bent to come and introduce trouble in Nairobi and elsewhere, we will not allow that to happen.
And we come back to the city where the former Chief Justice David Maraga is giving a presser on the June 25th, 2024 and second anniversary protest. So now let's cross over live and listen in.
Money cannot buy a life, money cannot buy justice. We want those police killers held accountable. Why? So that they don't repeat this kind of thing. We're in a democratic country where freedom of expression is allowed, where freedom to picket is allowed, and we must continue fighting that. We don't want to have a state where the government, instead of protecting people, they come with goons. You must have seen from some clips the goons who were around, even some of them around us. Non-goons.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
My names are Gillian Munyao, mother to Rex Kanyike Masai, the first victim to be shot 2 years ago. I'm here to say that even if the government compensates us, there is no any amount of money that can bring back our loved ones. We gave out our petition last week to remember our loved ones. I think it was all turned down. For today, I don't know what to say, but I thank Mr. Maraga for standing with me and the other parents who came out to remember our children. The government should know that they might kill us, but they cannot finish us. They might give us the peanuts that they are giving out, but remember, the pain in our hearts will always remain there. They might get away with the cases in the courts, but you know, there is God in heaven who sees everything that is happening. The final judge is our God. Thank you always for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Mama Rex. We will continue standing with you. We will continue standing with the families of those who lost loved ones, because those are our heroes. They were fighting not only for themselves, they were fighting for the rights of all the young people in Kenya. Let me now invite young aspirants, our UGM young aspirants, to come and say something.
Thank you. Thank you very much, members of the Fourth Estate. My name is Frederick Wanyeke. I'm a member of the United Green Movement Party, and at the same time a staunch supporter of the 6th President of the Republic of Kenya, David Kenani Maraga, the 6th Commander-in-Chief, the 6th, the People's Servant, People's President, the Architect of Change. And as a nation and as young people, we are still mourning.
Well, that's the former Chief Justice David Maraga giving us a presser on the situation on the ground in regards to the anniversary protest. Remember, this is the second anniversary protest since the deadly 2024 protest that claimed about 60 lives. And today in studio, I'm joined by a guest that is on my immediate right, Joel Olwoch, who's a lawyer. Thank you so much for making time for us today. And on my far right, we are joined by Friday Johnson, who's a political analyst, just to dissect there's a June 2024 commemoration, the second commemoration. And just to start off this discussion, this question is directed to Johnson. Do you think today's protest actually was worth it?
Thank you so very much for having me here today, and allow me to say that, yeah, it is justified. And from where I sit, I think it was an opportunity for people to sit and try to reflect what was and what has been so far. And I believe that anything that happens, any normal person ought to sit down. Good thing for us to remember, so that it can form our basis of the basis of our future, so that we don't find ourselves in the same predicament we find ourselves in last time. Yeah.
And maybe to you, Joel, do you think this protest was really necessary? And owing to the fact that up to today, 2 years on, no one has been held accountable for the deaths that, for the people that lost their lives. You're talking about 60 lives. That's no joke, 60 lives. Do you think this protest is necessary?
Thank you. Thank you for bringing me on board. I've always believed that it is necessary all the times that citizens express themselves and share their plight to their government, because it is them who gave authority to the governments to lead. So if at one point they say that this government, instead of misleading us, it's ruling and misgoverning us, they need to be corrected, and that need to be restored by them practically going out and saying, this is the direction we need. Because, you know, again, when so many people come out to say certain things, it's proper that one should listen and understand that there's something that is not going on correctly. As for this protest, it was proper that we went outside because it was commemorative. We were remembering that there is a reason why we lost certain individuals on the 24th of June 2024, and they just didn't go outside there to make noise, but they went there to state certain things that are wrong in the construct of governance then. And most of those things probably were not addressed properly, and we are still facing the same problems moving forward. So it was important to go outside there, first to remember them. Second, to remind the government that there are some of these issues that needed to be addressed and are not yet addressed.
And maybe, do you think that the government actually addressed these issues, because we are seeing the young people going back to the street over and over again during this commemoration, agitating for the same things that they agitated back in 2024?
You know, there might be 10 problems, but our government is a very clever one. It tries a way of addressing one out of the 10 to show that it is doing something. It's oscillating at some point, making very small progressive change to show the people that, you know, last time you people refused this finance bill, but this time you have brought something as this and this and this to at least survive for this. So our government is a very clever one. It knows how to oscillate slowly. It makes very small progresses to iron us so that we believe it's doing something. But it's too meager. The people need sporadic change, something bigger to bring a greater influence. For example, before we had the free education, the free primary and secondary education, education was very expensive, but it took a bold person to just come out and say, hey, we need to take children to school. That is bold. That's something that you can understand. It's not like a government who comes and tells you that, you know, a government of promises that tells you, no, next year we will be having, is it 1 million chapatis on the streets for children, school-going kids, or we will be fishing in River Nairobi, which is currently looks like a dump site. We need action. People are not just talking for the sake of talking. You know, some people might think that probably we maybe get paid or we're just mad. I had someone saying that you people are mad. We are not. We just need some things to be done correctly. Because, you know, at a point of intellect, we get to know a lot of things that happen as compared to someone maybe on the ground or not well schooled. So some of these things need to be addressed properly. And as for me, I don't think our government is doing much in that spectrum.
And maybe I can give Johnson to respond to that.
Thank you. From where I sit, I think there has been some changes that are notable. For example, when you look at what transpired then and what led to that, there was, many people say that the government didn't come out so boldly to talk about what was in the finance bill. They didn't break down to the local mwananchi to have the grasp to understand in depth what was entailed in that document. But when you look at what happened this year, we ought to give credit where it's due. And I feel the CS for finance did a very good job. Going out of his own way, tried to extrapolate, tried to break it down for the local mwananchi. I saw him in town trying to talk to the people, the phone vendors in town, trying to explain what this finance bill is going to do to them, what negatives are there and what positives entail in that document. He went also to Kamkunji to try to explain to people to understand that, hey, you don't need to oppose this thing minus reading it. You have an opportunity to try to delve into it, try to understand the nitty-gritties that are inside there for you to make an informed decision. And that, we can say, only came after the agencies came out boldly last time and demanded that the details of these documents be made available and be made readily for people to understand. So that is one aspect that maybe they have tried. Another aspect is they have tried to be very cautious and very careful when it comes to introducing new taxes. And if you could be critically, if you can critically look into it, you will see that they've been able to shelve some taxes that were bordering onto local Mwananchi and shifted them somewhere where the Mwananchi could not understand better, you know. But all in all, it is it's a journey. It's a process that will take time for us to be able to attain what the Gen Zs really wanted that particular moment.
But talking about change, you said in terms of public participation, it's something that was there before, just that maybe the leaders are just taking an extra step to ensure that citizens know about, as you've put it, but actually talking about the actual change, the governance, 2 years on, have we seen a change in governance? Also, have we seen the incorporation of young people in the governance sphere? And also at the same time, they're agitating for the cost. We have a very high cost of living. Actually, the cost of living has not gone down as we speak right now. We're talking about unemployment. The rates are really going high. So have we really seen an actual change in that regard?
I will not sit and hold brief for the government, but answering your question is, it is true that economic status and the struggle is still there. The agitation that was there for the economy to be stabilized and the economy to be managed well, we can say that that has not been attained fully. But from where I sit, I can say that that is a journey, and it's progressive. When the Gen Zs came out, they had very particular points. For example, they had an issue with corruption in the government, how the government was overspending their monies. And the last time we were told that the government or Kenyan government loses over 2 billion per day. So these were the things that made some people to get agitated. Do we see any proposals to cap that? Do we see government trying to cut down its expenditure? From where I sit, I can say that there are steps that have been put in place, though they have not yielded the much needed results. But I think it's a work in progress, and we believe that come next year we will see things unfolding for us.
And maybe to Brian, we've seen that we still have police excesses since that time. We still see people being arrested. Today we've seen several people who have been arrested. What would you comment on that in terms of change? Have we seen change in the security forces, how they handle issues?
One of the things that came about by the recommendations, the 10-point agenda, was addressing the police excesses and providing for proper regulations and giving police reforms, whereby it was prudent that the police become very cautious in handling the common Mwananchi. If you attend some of these protests, while you are at the streets, before, and I am saying this because it is something I can attest to, most of the times before I get into the streets, before the police gets involved, the protests are very peaceful, as per Article 37, the spirits of Article 37. But in the event that the police gets involved, things get to change, and you wonder, is it the police that bring about this commotion, or is it the citizens, or is it the goons who are sponsored by the politicians? And nowadays, some even see hope out of police vans to actually, I don't know, come and curtail or do what to the protests. These are things that are provided for in our Constitution. Article 37 gives us the spirit to peacefully go and demonstrate to some of these things that we are against. And if we go and do that in the streets, we are hunted down like criminals. In fact, after the president on 24th, was it 24th of June last, or 2024, the president came out and called Gen Zs and the people who are on the streets as criminals. And he was very categorical. He never phoned, he said, our nation has been attacked by criminals. And that is not a very small thing. So you wonder, is it in his position to justify who your criminal is? So some of those things needs to be addressed. My brother here was saying the government is making progress. Well, I have contrary opinion because I feel that our government is making progress at the expense of what they want us to see. Most of the bigger problems of our country are not properly addressed by this government. We have a serious problem we have serious corruption problems. We saw the other day when one of the governors could not account for almost 24 million. Some governors built pit latrines, two-door pit latrines of up to 500,000, and they're actually explaining it to the people, trying to convince them that that is the standard to build such latrines. And logically, that is not how things need to be handled. And again, they stop at that point. We need to be more accountable in how resources that are provided for by Mwananchi are used. In the event that there is a misplaced priority in the budgeting and the expenditure of the same, proper factions, the EACC and the DCI, they need to get involved because this is money that is from the people. This is authority that is vested by the people. They give these governors, these members of parliament, they give the government, they give the head of state, that authority just to be there. And you see, again, something that has also come to my attention much lately is the propositions that have been given to the State House. And their spending has become too much. You see, they have been allocated for almost, was it 17 billion? Oh. Yeah, which was way too much than other regimes. And you find when the Auditor General comes out and says, hey, some of these institutions have spent almost 70% of what needs to be spent in 5 years. And when they address the excesses in the government, you see someone as great as the president comes out and says, some of these institutions, they don't matter to us. And an Auditor General is the one who protects it. He is the oversighting body to say that here there are excesses, here there is much spending, and this needs to be taught down. So we are still very far, to me. There are most of these problems or these challenges that we are facing as a country, I don't think they are being addressed properly. We are on the right path, and but there's still much that needs to be done.
As you've rightfully put it, you've said that we are on the right path, and you also saying that there are some constitutional rights that were violated actually even today.
Yes.
We've seen the restriction of movement, of which people are supposed to have a free movement and access, and you know, businesses closing down, that means the country loses a lot of money. And maybe to pose this question to Johnson, what do you think we have a problem with in terms of accountability? Because 2 years on, we've not had an accountability for the losses that we incurred during the 2024 and the 2025. Where do you think we have bottlenecks in terms of giving justice to these victims and holding the people accountable who are responsible for the losses?
Thank you. Just to highlight what my brother has said here, the current allocation for State House for the 2026-2027 has been cut by around 4 billion, and the current allocation is 13.6 billion, just to set the record straight. Let me say that a question will beg, who is supposed to report these cases to the police for them to take action and to be able to follow up and to see the justice has been rendered to the victims? I was reading and I was checking the IPOA report, and IPOA reports that only 2 cases are in court. And as it has been said, over 60 lives were lost. So we expect over 100 cases to be in court at the moment. So that means that somebody somewhere is sleeping on the job on where or how to perform or how to go about this duty. If we only have 2 out of 100 or 60, there is something wrong somewhere, ought to be corrected. Having said that, I've seen that the government has proposed some recompensation to victims. This is what we call retributive justice. Partially retributive, because there is a hand that is saying this is a token to say pole, whilst we are not seeing somebody being taken to court or charged who perpetuated that act to the victims. So we could say that it is somehow a double standard from the government side, not to come out so clearly to use its apparatus to crack down on the rogue officers that perpetuated all these things. And as my brother has said, all these protests, they are always said to be peaceful, but problem always start when the police come in. Like, for example, today I was listening to Martha Karua while she was talking that when she was coming from her house, there were barricades on the road, and she had to lower her window so that police could see who she was. And from that moment to Serena, it was so peaceful. And my problem has always been that if we want to develop a culture of peaceful protest, it's a time that we need to talk to our police officers that they need to give it a chance. The moment they feel that security has been breached, that is the moment they ought to come in. And there are SOP, standing operating procedures for police, to come in and to rein on when these things happen. Going forward, we will want to see the government taking another step in ensuring that all people that were involved in maiming, in killing of all these people that lost their lives, they're brought to book, and publicly they are charged in a court of law, and we as a people are able to see, witness, and to be able to get satisfaction from seeing that justice has been rendered, not embellishing the whole process so that it can suit a certain narrative that something is being done to the victims. But we need to see justice as justice being done to everybody that was affected in one way or the other.
And maybe, Oloch, from the law perspective, in terms of accountability, we've seen the evidence has been presented in courts for those cases that are already in court. And why are we not seeing any progress in terms of those officers who are held culpable for this incidents brought to books? And also the question of the reparation, the 2 billion shillings that was issued out. Do you think that can inhibit the seek or the quest for justice for these families?
Article 23 of our Constitution gives courts the authority to make certain but this only happens when proper and due process is followed. How is this done? How is this done? When someone is killed in the streets, then as an interested person, you go to the police station and then lodge a formal complaint and say that so-and-so was killed, and these are the specific, you give your statement. And after giving your statement, it is in the position of the officer in the station to give you an OB of stating that so-and-so came and reported this. And after, sorry for that. So after which, that is done, then it is now in the position of the ODPP to take action appropriately. And IPOA is to do the investigations and then file a report that needs to be followed up, and then criminal proceedings proceedings need to take action. We as normal citizens, we don't have the locus standing to take a criminal proceedings to court and then prosecute it. It is in the position of the state to support that. So what I say is the people who got involved, who were injured during the protests, they deserve compensation. And again, if you look at precedences in maybe other jurisdictions, you find that it is way much bigger than what they have received or they're supposed to receive. And that is not to be determined by an agent of the state or the executive. It is in the position of our courts, most specifically the High Court as the original jurisdiction to determine that. So I would say I would actually thank the government on what they have done, because some of these people have faced a lot of retributions. Probably there's a gentleman called Eric Moore I met yesterday who was, he told us he was a returning officer. He was taking back tear gas and he got injured, almost, his hand was almost chopped off, and used a lot of money in just getting treatments for that. And you know, once you get to that point, we use a lot of money, it is important that whoever caused your troubles pay you, compensate you a certain amount. But legally, that is not how it should be done. There should be proper petitions to court to identify what recourse needs to be given moving forward.
So in this case, what was the process? How was the process supposed to look like?
At the moment, we only have two cases in court. One is for Alberto John, which I was part of, and then another one is for Rex Masai. And for Rex Masai is a judicial inquest. That is a proper overhaul into the system to get to know who did what, who killed what is it, and it takes a long time. It's almost 2 years now. It's not been closed up to now. And the only thing that needs to be done to the others, because they are saying that most of them lodged a complaint with, you should lodge a complaint at the police station, then the file is taken to IPOA for investigation, then they give a report to the DCI, and the proceedings go to the ODPP and all that. But most of them say that they lodge all these complaints, they take them to IPOA, and they're saying the Independent Policing Oversight Authority doesn't allow them to know whether their files are active or whether their cases were taken there. You know, that is a glitch into the process, because it is important for them to know whether their complaints reached the oversighting body. Someone like Eric Moore is the one I had talked to, told me that he went to IPOA, tried to ask whether his file is active, tried to be provided with relevant information on the compensation or on what is the recourse for the state, and he was denied that opportunity. And some of those things need to be addressed properly, because these institutions, it's us, it's our funds, it's our money that puts them running. So they need to be accountable, and they need to operate with a lot of openness.
And definitely we will be getting back to you in terms of this particular protest actually changed and shaped the civic space around the country, the young people, you know, taking back their power. But before we get into that, now let's cross over to our reporter who's in Nakuru, Gishoy, for a live update on the current situation on the ground. Good afternoon, Gashuhi. What can you report from Nakuru County? We know Nakuru County also, it's one of the hotspot areas when it came to Gen Z demonstrations. We saw a couple of people injured. We also saw lives lost in the 2024 and 2025 protest. What can you report right now from Nakuru?
Ventura, indeed, the situation here in Nakuru has been calm until some few minutes ago, when a few protesters tried to gather up along one of the roads, major roads here within the Nakuru city. And we had the police being mobilized, and they had they managed to tear gas those protesters and disperse them. And immediately after that, this town was very deserted until some few minutes ago when the traders or the residents or the normal business is trying to pick up back after that kind of a disruption. But at the moment we have maybe probably around 60% of the businesses still closed here in Nakuru. But this was not witnessed early in the morning because we had normal activities. But until this afternoon, that is when those protesters tried to regroup and actually try to walk towards the city center. But their efforts were thwarted by the police, who have been mobilized in their numbers. These are contingents from the Kenya Police, the Administration Police, and also from the prisons, Kenya Prison Service, who have been deployed here in various vehicles. We also have seen armored police armored personnel carriers being used here to patrol within the city. But we have not witnessed any form of chaos, only that small incident. And with me here is one of the residents who can talk to us maybe and tell us what they take of what exactly happened just some few minutes ago. Tueleze jina lako na pengine siku imekuaje, umeathirika kibiashara ama shughuli zako ziko namna gani siku ya leo?
Thank you very much, KTN. My name's Maura Steven, a resident in Nakuru County and actually one of the leaders. And I'm here to condemn what has happened this afternoon because kulikuwa mwanzoni kulikuwa na amani, biashara zilikuwa zimefunguliwa. Hapa ukiangalia wafanyabiashara walikuwa wamefungua, lakini kukawa na kundi dogo ambalo limekuja likachocheana hapa na pale. All of a sudden askari wakaanza kushoot. Kile naomba ni ya kwamba makumbusho sio mabaya, lakini makumbusho yafanywe kwa njia halali, makumbusho yafanywe kwa njia haki, makumbusho yafanywe pasipo uharibifu wa mali, pasipo kuchoma magari za wenyewe, pasipo kuchoma biashara za wenyewe. I do support makumbusho, lakini yafanywe kwa njia halali. Pia nitaomba pia askari wasitumie kile tunaita excessive force. Manake sometimes tumeangalia tukaona ya kwamba wakati mwingine askari wanatumia excessive force, wanapiga risasi, wanaumiza watu. So nitaomba askari watumie ile nguvu ambayo ni kiasi ili maandamano ama makumbusho yawe ya amani.
Shukran sana. Nipate maoni ya Mkenya mwingine hapa. Tueleze jina lako na pia shughuli siku ya leo hapa katika kituo cha mabasi cha Nakuru imekuwa namna gani kufikia sasa, na pengine dakika chache zilizopita hali ilikuwa namna gani?
Wakati tulikuwa hapa, kwa majina naitwa Steven, kwa dakika chache tulikuwa hapa, mambo ilikuwa sawa, mambo ilikuwa poa, na tukasema kwamba mambo ilikuwa kawaida kwa kazi zetu. Lakini muda usio mchache hivi kwamba tukaingilia hapa tukakuta askari wanatumia nguvu isio faa, kwa sababu kazi ilikuwa sawa, na ukiangalia kwanza kazi ilikuwa fiti na kazi ilikuwa inaendelea poa. Lakini muda usio mchache hivi tunakuta mambo imeendelea vibaya, tunakuta askari wanatukimbiza, tunapigwa tear gas. Na sasa hakuna kitu tumefanya sisi tulikuwa tunaangalia shughuli zetu za kazi, na tunaendelea kazi ikiwa poa na tulikuwa tunaendelea vizuri. Lakini tukakuingia kwamba askari wanatumia, sijui wanatufukuza town, wanafanya tusiendelee kazi yetu, na sisi tulikuwa na amani, tunafanya kazi yetu kwa amani, sisi tunafanya shughuli yetu kazi, tunafungua duka zetu, duka zilikuwa zimefunguliwa kwa amani. Kazi nyingine tulikuwa tumefungua huko kwa amani, sisi hatukuwa na shida. Lakini kidogo sisi tunakuta shughuli zetu si kidogo tu hivi. Mimi nilikuwa tu pale juu, naona tu askari wamekuja mbio hivi, wamepiga tear gas. Sisi tulikuwa na kijana mwingine hapa hivi anasimamia MCA. Sisi tumekuja tumepanda tu hivi pole hivi, tumesikia mara tear gas imerushwa, tukasikia pua. Tukiendelea tu hivi kidogo tunakimbizwa. Mimi kwanza nimepitia tu hapa mbio hivi tu, nimetoka kijiko, nimeenda nikaingilia tu ile chuo. Tumetoka mbio man, mimi niko sawa, mimi hakuna mahali mimi nimejificha ati uso. Mimi siko nimejificha uso. Mimi siko nimejificha uso na hakuna maandamano. Sisi tuko sawa.
Sasa una expect mimi kuja maandamano?
Mimi tulikuwa tunapanda tu hivi pole. Mimi nimetoka kazi yangu na mimi sijajifunika uso. Nimetoka tu pole. Mimi msiogope walai. Msiogope. Haya, sasa mimi tulikuwa tunapanda hivi tu pole. Kupanda tu pole hivi. Haina shida, mimi acha nipige, lakini mimi naongea ukweli. Mimi nimepanda hivi pole. Mimi kidogo natolewa mbio. Hakuna maandamano. Mimi nimetolewa tu mbio hivi, nimetoroka tu mbio walai.
Sasa asante. Hayo ni maoni ya baadhi ya wakazi hapa, na vile ulivyosikia ni kwamba katika kituo hiki cha mabasi kufuatia ile moshi ya kutoa machozi ambayo iliweza kuachiliwa hapa na maafisa wa polisi, shughuli zote zimeweza kutatizika, na kama mnavyoona hapa magari ni machache sana, abiria pia hawapo, ni wachache tu ambao wameweza kufika huku wakijaribu pengine kusafiri kuelekea mahali tofauti. Na kwa sasa kituo hiki cha mabasi si kawaida kuwa bila magari hivi. Ni kituo ambacho kwa kawaida huwa kimejaa magari, hamna nafasi ya kuweka magari kwa kawaida, lakini kwa sasa kama unavyoona ni kwamba hadi maduka ambayo yalikuwa yamefunguliwa masaa ya asubuhi yalikuwa kufikia sasa yameweza kufungwa, na ni kufuatia ile jaribio la vijana ambao walijaribu kuingia katikati mwa mji wa Nakuru ili kufanya maandamano yao. Lakini kwa sasa hali bado imerejea hali shwari, na tunaendelea kuangazia hali katika eneo hili kuhakikisha kwamba watazamaji wetu wanapata taswira kamili katika taarifa za hapo baadaye. Kwako studioni.
Well, thank you so much. That's our reporter Gashuhi from Nakuru County giving us an update on what's going on there. Still, businesses have been affected majorly by the closure of that barricading of roads that is deterring people from accessing different places of their work. And coming back to our discussion that we had with the gentleman in the studio, we're actually talking about the reparation program that is currently ongoing. And do you think that this reparation, actually, we are in the right step in terms of compensating these people? Because also, they were saying that those who were injured, they'll get 500,000 shillings, some of them. But some of them have used more than 500,000 shillings for treatment.
Yeah.
Do you even think like that's something tangible?
Personally, I want to look at it critically in this form that looking at the previous governments, previous administrations, something of the sort never happened publicly, okay? And for the government to come out and to be able to set aside 2 billion to compensate, it's a sign of admission. We are admitting that something wrong went forth. And this is how we are proposing to make it right, okay? And the making right is where the people have a problem with. We need to see some justice being rendered in the sense that somebody ought to take full responsibility of what happened. In this case, they are giving out 3 million to the people that lost their lives, 1 million to people who had injuries, and 500,000 for people who had minor injuries. And it is true, as you've put it, that many people used more than what they are getting as a compensation. But what the government is saying that this is not a compensation per se, but a token. But in the sense, it is laced with admission that something went wrong. This is where we need to have a conversation, where something went wrong. It went wrong in whose hands? In whose orders did it go wrong? And where are these perpetrators hiding themselves so that they can also be brought to public jury or a court of law and justice be rendered to these people? These victims, the money is a good token, yes. But they want to look somebody in the eye and say that this is the person that took my nephew. This is the person that took my daughter, my son on the streets. At least to be able to see, yes, my son is gone, my daughter is gone, but this is the person. So, see, this is the victim, or this is the perpetrator in my eyesight. What is the government going to do about it? What is IPOA doing about it? And that's where we come and say that as IPOA, I think IPOA has slept on the job and has really not performed as per the expectation that many Kenyans had on them. So it is a time that we looked at the whole process. As my brother was talking about and was saying that when atrocity has been committed, who is supposed to take up that matter? Whose prerogative it is to make sure that this matter is taken to the highest level of the judicial system? And this squarely lies in the police and the IPOA. Since the perpetrators in quotes are said to be the police men and women. So it is the job of IPOA to come out strongly and be able to secure its position in this whole saga. Thank you.
And as we talk about those victims, lest we forget, we also have other people who are still missing to date. These are states, and as a state, they ought to know where their people are, whether dead or alive.
Yes.
What's your take on that? Because these families are still reeling from not knowing where their loved ones are.
The reason why we need to strengthen our courts is because of some of those human rights violations. Because it should not even only stop at compensation. Because after compensation, then what next? You come and kill someone again, then give him money? Because that is now that is the image that they're putting forth. They are now making a transaction on that. Okay, we'll come and kill you, but after 2 years or so, I'll come and give you money. That is the type of image that they're spreading right now. But when we strengthen our courts, because even in the 10-point agenda, that is where the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, may his soul rest in peace, proposed that we would want compensation for all the victims. And that is one thing that he said until his death, that we need compensation for all the victims that have faced violence by the state since 2017, I guess, to date. And the only mistake that I think that was not addressed properly was how to bring this compensation forth. Because it is not in the position of the executive or parliament to do it, but it is in the position of the judiciary, our courts, to decide the proper way on how it is done. That is why when we still have people who are still lost to date and they need, the families are looking for them, it's proper, so that we do. It's called. Well, it's proper that is taken to the courts, so that an application of habeas corpus where you have to provide a body, because it is in the position of our security agents to do that. So those who we believe got involved, such applications need to be done by our courts, our prosecution bodies, so that an habeas corpus application is done and we get to know where these people are, or whether they are dead or not. And those pronouncements are supposed to be made by the courts. So if we have an executive that overlaps and extends its position in these matters, it becomes worrisome. We are not a presidential democracy. That is one thing that we need to understand. We have had a country that had a very powerful president since the 1960s to somewhere post-1990. But again now, in 2010, we created and birthed a new democracy, whereby it was outlined properly in the new constitution. So we came about to know that now the type of democracy we have is called a constitutional democracy, not a parliamentary democracy, not a presidential democracy, whereby powers that are given to the states, to the president, are checked. Okay? So, in as much as you're bringing the urge of doing something good and giving compensation, but do it by the law, do it by the constitution, do it as provided, make these propositions as provided for in our grand norm. That would make us look like a progressive state. That would make us be a progressive state. But as of now, we are trying to look like a better country. As I say, there's hope. We are moving in the right direction, but things need to be done properly, and due process need to be followed to the latter.
And as you've rightly put it, that we have security agencies actually are the ones who are supposed to make applications to courts. Remember, the families of those who are still missing.
Not security agents.
Sorry, the police. The police. The families made a report, but why are we not having the courts issue that habeas corpus?
There is, you know, your role in this process is very ceremonial because you take a complaint to the police station. And once the complaint is with the police, then they issue an OB. And then the statement that you have issued, they take it to an investigative body, the IPOA, whereby once it is with the IPOA needs to do an investigation, then file a report to the DCI. Okay? And then once that is done, and they have found that their proper violation, fundamental violations of human rights, that's when now the ODPP takes it upon themselves and then make an application. And then once that reaches, it's a tedious process, it may take time. That's why you see we only have 2 at the moment. But when there's political goodwill, this could be done so easily. You find that maybe like brother here said that IPOA slept on, IPOA has literally slept on its job. Sometimes they were saying that, oh, they are understaffed, that's the reason why they do so little. But it is proper that we know that with proper political goodwill, we would clear most of these cases and justice would be served accordingly. But at the moment, as I say, we are still oscillating at one point. Most of these people have OBs that are dating up to 2020. But the proper bodies that needs to do their investigations and then after that file reports and then proper prosecution measures put in place are not doing that. So it is not the fault of the courts at the moment, but it is the fault, there's this gap between the police station and the ODPP. This is where we have a problem. Yes.
And maybe as I go to the gentleman on my far right, now what is left for these families? Because if there's laxity between the ODPP who's supposed to do all these investigations, so what happens to the families?
Thank you very much. And one will argue that maybe the family needs to find closure and get help, professional help to help them to be able to have that long-desired closure. But again, justice is not time-bound. Justice can be rendered even after 50 years. Where there is political will, we can be able to expedite and feel that justice was done in one way or the other at one particular time. So I would request that the families should not relent, should not give up, but continue to pursue. If the matters are still with the police or the IPOA or ODPP, the family should be able to continue to pursue justice in all manners possible, so that the pressure that they exert on these people or these bodies that were set to render justice are seen to be done. So there are those who will feel like maybe it is time to let go. There are those families which will be guided to proceed and pursue the justice no matter the time involved. So it depends with where you sit and it depends how you want to proceed. But to exert pressure on the people that were mandated constitutionally to ensure that such cases are expedited and are presented in court of laws for justice to be dispensated, it is time that we continue exerting pressure, and we also call on civil society to be able to actively involve themselves in ensuring that justice is given to these families and these victims at large.
All right, then Friday, now allow me to go over to our reporter Chris Thairo, who's in Kajiado County. Good afternoon, Thairo. We heard you earlier. You gave us an update on the situation that was in Rongai. How is the situation now? Have we seen businesses now starting slowly to go back to normalcy, or it's just like the way it was in the morning?
Well, very good afternoon to you, Bentura, and dear viewers. We are still camping here in Ongata Rongai, which is in Kajiado County. Kajiado County is 034. And calm, there is calm compared to the morning times, because initially there was some tension when roads had been barricaded or roads had been blocked by the police, and there was a very strict inspection by the police, and they weren't allowing any PSV vehicles to operate along this route. But now it seems normalcy is starting to resume slowly by slowly, although there are still some shops which are still yet to reopen. But on this side, on my right side, it's business as usual for majority of traders here in Ongata. This is one of the main markets here in Ongata Rongai, and initially in the morning times there was very little activities, but moving forward, even as the afternoon continued, we've seen that calm has been restored by the police, and activities are resuming to normalcy. I'll just talk to one or two traders here in this market just to get a glimpse of or feeling of how comes that they have been able to open and continue with their businesses. Kiongozi, hata kabla hujanikatia ile miwa umeniahidi, labda ukituangalia hivi, uliamuaje leo ukafungua tu shughuli tukijua kwamba wenzako walikuwa wameshafunga tayari? Kuanzia kwa majina.
Majina ni Kirova Mbega. Leo niliamua kufungua kazi. Sina wowote. Kazi bado yaendelea tu. Kazi kwa vijana.
Na usalama, unaweza sema usalama uko vipi kufikia sasa?
Niko salama kabisa. Sina maneno.
Nasema shughuli ya polisi wenyewe umeona wamekipa?
Walikuwa asubuhi sana, lakini sasa hawayuko.
Well, Bentura, that is just one of the traders here, and he's selling sugarcane. I think I'll pass by after this link, but I'll also talk to one of the residents here. Labda mzee, kwa majina yako unaweza tueleza, ukianza kwa majina yako, hisia zako ni zipi hii leo na shughuli imekuwa vipi pande yako?
Kwa majina ni Stephen Momanyi, mkaaji wa area ya Rongai. Sisi tumekuwa na amani na tumedumisha amani kabisa. Watu tunafanya kazi, sisi ni watu tunapenda amani kabisa. Yes.
Na labda maoni yako ni yapi hasa ukizingatia kwamba kuna wale vijana ambao takriban 60 ambao waliweza kupoteza maisha yao Juni tarehe 25 mwaka wa 2024?
Sisi kitu tunaweza sema ni pole kwa familia zile zilipoteza maisha hao watu ambao walipotea, walianza kuaga. Tunawaambia pole sana kwa familia, na sisi kitu tunasema tu watu waweze kudumisha amani, tufanye kazi kwa amani, nchi yetu tunaipenda sana.
Asante sana. That is just one of the residents here, and as you've heard clearly, they are happy that there is peace here, and they've managed to continue with their daily activities. But what I can also confirm is that there is a heavy police presence around this area of Ongata Rongai, and that is maybe one of the reasons that the residents here have been able to continue with their daily activities. And I believe that even as the afternoon progresses and we continue to the evening time, at least normalcy will have returned and most businesses will have opened, and I'm sure that even the public service vehicles will now start applying. Of course, for now, the only people who are applying this route or who are being allowed are only the border riders. And so from here, Bentura will still be continue to pitch tent, but I'm sure that by the end of the day, peace will have prevailed in Ongata Rongai, which is in Kajiado County, Bentura.
Well, thank you so much. That's our reporter Chris Fairo from Rongai, just giving us an update over what's going on. Business is seen to be resuming back to normalcy, though in slow beats. And back to a discussion in the studio with Friday. Looking at all these things, especially now since the Gen Z movement that was in 2024. How far have we come in terms of the civic spaces, also making a comparison throughout the regimes that we've had before?
Thank you. We could say that the activist space has been broadened, has opened up tremendously, in the sense that there are new, vocal and very strong, very passionate activists who have emerged. compared to what we used to witness in the days of Moi and the Kibaki era, we witnessed people who came out so strongly, passionately, and looked their demonstration in the eye and told them the evils that were being perpetuated under their reign. And having said that, the current breed of activists are borrowing leaf, or they're taking the mantle from where the old guards or the old activists left from. You could see the CIA governor trying to fight his space, you know, trying to fit in where he is, because the space has grown, the space has really changed and evolved to what it is today. But what we could say, from where I sit, I could say that the former activist space was a little bit or somehow principled compared to what we have today. Today, much of the space has been commercialized and is being ruled by tokenism. How do I mean by saying that? We could see that after the 2024 Gen Z protests, there emerged a new crop, a good crop of activists. But when we try to critically look at their journey, how they began and where they are at the moment, we could say that they veered off somewhere on the road. They were so passionate, they had a stand, but some we could see they have been swallowed either by the opposition or by the system at the moment, rendering all the gains that they had made to be something that can be questioned. Having said that, it is a space that we, as Kenyans, we have enjoyed its fruits so far. The new constitution, it can be pegged on the struggle of activists and other people that gave their lives and gave their sweat to ensure that the new constitution is in place. So it is maybe a wake-up call to the breed that's coming forth, that maybe they have to learn one or two, three things from the older generation or the older space that was there. People like James Orengo and the likes of Martha Karua ought now to bring and mentor new breed of people that is going to take the activist space to the next level. Lastly, I must say that as they do that, they ought to instill discipline in this crop that is emerging, that everything is not pegged on monetary value, on monetary aspect of it, but they have to stand for something and defend that something, whether the night is there or the day is there. Whether they are brutalized by the police or the system, they ought to stand their ground and they fight for what they strongly believe in, what has defined them to be who they are today.
And you've pointed out that they should borrow a leaf from those in the older generation.
Yes.
Which is this leaf that you're talking about? What
Number one, I confidently say that the older the former activism in the era of Moi and Kibaki were a bit principled. We can read today from the archives people who were tried to be bought by the system then, but they refused and they stood their grounds, and they were able to deliver on what they were convicted in. But today, I don't want to mention names, but somebody started in 2024, but 2 years down the line, they are either swallowed by the government or the opposition. They have no moral authority to stand on what they stood on 2 years ago. So there is a shaky ground upon which they stand on today.
Joel, do you share the same sentiments as Friday?
Well, activism is what birthed our constitution. That's one thing that we never have to forget. And I am against commercial activism. That's out there, that's open. Mm-hmm. But I support activism because in the event that we have excesses in our government, and right now we literally do not have an opposition government that we can call upon. There's a climax that Raila Odinga had placed somewhere that we are dreaming that how we wish Baba would be here. You understand? So right now the current crop of opposition leaders, they are either nonchalant or they don't resonate properly to what the citizen the citizen flight. So I believe that it's also proper that we correct, because we are building our nation, and as I say, that nation building is a very tedious process, and some of these people would want to get involved and infiltrate it, which is not correct. And that's why I'm actually against commercial activism. Activism should be organic, because the problems we are facing as a country, everyone sees them. I don't know, it's only the government who doesn't see the problems Kenyans are facing. So activism should be organic. And when we go to the streets, we have certain fundamental things. Something like 2024 was the finance bill. And the first protest that happened, I think it was on 17th of June 2024, because I was part of it. Yeah. That was day one. It was so good. People are outside there saying, hey, we have this in the finance bill that needs to be struck off, increase in, I think it was petroleum products. I don't have a clear memory right now. But people were very clear on what they wanted out. And the day one was so nice and so perfect. And now day two and day three, and the last one was something else. So for political activism, I encourage it. Our nation was birthed, our constitution was written by people's blood. Our constitution, the way it is anchored on the blood of people who stood firm and said, we need to have, from the ages of multi-party democracy, because it was a process until we came up to 2010. People stood and said, we need to have a multi-party democracy. That was the first. Then people now came back and said, something is wrong. We need to now have a constitution to guide these multi-party democratic structures, so that we have a nation that is governed by one law, that is the law of the land. So as we move forward, we have individuals who have infiltrated the process. Please back off. That is not your space. Let our nation have leaders emerge sporadically, because we are writing history and we are drafting and designing the path of this country. Let that be done organically. Let it be done in a proper way, because there's nothing we can't achieve as a country. Even those nations that are thriving right now, at one point, we often talk about Singapore, but we forget the dark history that Singapore had. And it was for some time, it was for a reason, and they emerged out of it till today. There's a nation it can be reckoned with, Malaysia and the Asian tigers. That is where what our youths are supposed to embed their thoughts upon. Chino Achebe once said, who are the young suckers that would leave after the old guard is gone? That is what we need to think about.
Exactly. And thinking about all that, Friday, this movement, do you think it changed the political landscape in the country, and how?
Number one, it brought about rejection of ethnic cocoons, whereby, for example, one group of young people from a certain region could not coexist or work together or be pulled together for a common cause because of their tribal lines. But when these protests came forth, it gave birth to a new dawn for protests. We could see people from all walks of life, people from all tribes joining together, voicing their concerns in one voice. To me, that was something that was not there in our republic. Two, we saw that multi-sectoral people joined in. For example, doctors came out, offered their expertise and their services freely. Ambulances were there, free of charge. There are people who also came to offer water just for the people who were on the streets. That means that there were people from all walks of life defined under one umbrella that they needed change at that particular moment, or they needed something to be done that particular moment. So if you want to critically explore what really happened in that space, you will say that there were notable gains, not leave alone what happens by the President Ruto disbanding all the cabinet and all that. But in our own fabric makeup, something happened. There was realignment in our own fabric. And that, for today, will define what will happen in next year, come 2027 general election. And through this, something good also came up, something we call Niko Kadi, whereby youths embraced this idea that for us to be able to talk in one voice, we need to arm ourselves. And what is it that we can arm ourselves with? But that is only the voter's card. They came out so strong, so passionately, rallied everybody, all corners of Kenya, and people embraced this idea. Our parents also embraced these ideas. Our old people in the villages embraced Niko Kadi, and we want to see the ultimate goal of this Niko Kadi come next year. So when the history is being written about the Gen Z protests, they will be noting down these notable things that happened that shaped our destiny as a nation.
And definitely, we cannot turn a blind eye in the upcoming general elections, which is a few months away. That is 2027, that's next year. Joel, do you think that the ripple effects of the June 2024 protests, are we likely to see the ripple effects being felt in the 2027 elections?
We are. And seriously, like a lot of it. And if most factions in the government are sleeping, doubting that a few issues here and there might protect them from what has been shaped by the Gen Z protests, then they need to think twice. From June 2024, a lot of things happened. You remember when the Gen Zs went up to Parliament, they went to that legislative body, got inside. I don't know how, but they did. Some of us say they impeached Parliament, and some people you hear say that Parliament is there illegally, but that is subject to a lot of legal understanding. But what I know is, however much we have worked with these actions from June 2024, a lot, it has projected a lot in the upcoming general election. Let me say, mostly in the legislatures, both National Assembly and Senate, I think our national attrition rate is always 60%, whereby you see 60% of MPs are dropped off and a new crown comes on. I think this time it might even be more, because if you take, for instance, when there was voting, the voting, I think the second reading of finance bill, we had almost 186 members of parliament who just decided that we are not going to be represented. Even these people forget that they have a choice by going to vote. They forget that it is them who votes in most of these decision-making bills. It is not them, and they don't have a choice. They have been given this authority by the people, that on this day, when we are voting for the finance bill, we are asking you, please vote no or please vote yes. So it is what your people tell you. They don't tell you to stay at home. So most of them that made some of those decisions, it is important that their constituents forget about them moving forward. So the parliament, the house, the August House, I think there will be a lot of change there. And this time it might even be 90% attrition rate, because most of them are not even doing what the plight of the citizens are. I remember a while back when the president went to parliament and when they were rejecting the finance bill, All of them voted yes. Most of them voted yes. But when the president came now saying that I am not going to assent this bill into law, all of them are outside there celebrating. You wonder, are these guys normal? Or is there a problem with them? Because you came out and said you are in complete compliance with this law and you love it and you have read it, you have consumed the information there. Then when the president now comes and says, no, I'm not going to assent this to law because there's a lot of struggle with it, then you come out and yell and celebrate. So some of those things, again, you start thinking about twice. There's an MP, again, when they were reading the bill, he said some clauses that were not in that bill. And when I was watching that, it became worrisome, because when you're given a role to play, it is important that you play it accordingly, because you have been placed in a position of confidence by the people that we ask you to go and represent us, and please represent